The smartest person in the room is often the one who loses, not because they lack intelligence, but because they believe intelligence is enough. They analyze everything, understand everyone, predict outcomes, calculate consequences, and yet somehow, they still end up ignored, outmaneuvered, or quietly replaced by someone far less intelligent. This is not an accident, it is a pattern. Machiavelli noticed this centuries ago. He observed scholars who understood politics better than princes, yet had no influence. Advisors who predicted betrayal, yet were betrayed first. Strategists who knew the game, but refused to play it, and they lost. Not because they were wrong, but because they misunderstood human nature. Intelligence sees truth, but social games reward perception. This is the difference that destroys many smart people. They assume people value accuracy, but people value comfort. They assume logic wins arguments, but emotion wins alliances. They assume honesty earns respect, but confidence earns authority. And slowly, without realizing it, the smartest person becomes the easiest to bypass, because social power is not built on being right. It is built on being accepted. Machiavelli understood that intelligence alone rarely dominates social environments. In fact, extreme intelligence often creates distance. The smarter someone becomes, the more they rely on logic, and the more they underestimate emotion, ego, and insecurity. But social games are not played with logic. They are played with perception. A less intelligent person who understands this can outperform a genius who ignores it. Imagine two individuals inside a political court. One is brilliant. He speaks carefully, analyzes deeply, and chooses truth over popularity. The other is average. He observes moods, mirrors opinions, and avoids threatening others' egos. The first gains admiration, the second gains influence. And influence always wins, because admiration is passive, influence is active. Machiavelli saw this repeatedly. The most intelligent advisors often isolated themselves. They corrected others. They exposed flaws. They spoke uncomfortable truths. And while everything they said was accurate, something invisible happened. People began to feel small around them, and people avoid those who make them feel small, even if they respect them. This is where smart people begin losing. They underestimate ego. Human beings do not want to feel inferior. They want to feel competent, valued, respected. Someone who constantly demonstrates superior intelligence, even unintentionally, creates discomfort. Others may smile, agree, even praise. But internally something shifts. They stop trusting. They stop including. They stop supporting. Because intelligence becomes threatening. Machiavelli advised rulers never to surround themselves with individuals who make them feel weak. Not because rulers dislike intelligence, but because insecurity overrides appreciation. A brilliant advisor who humiliates a prince, even subtly, becomes dangerous. Not physically, but psychologically. And psychological threats are eliminated quietly. This is why smart people often lose social games. They win arguments, but lose allies. They prove points, but weaken bonds. They show intelligence, but trigger insecurity. And insecurity reshapes behavior. Others begin forming alliances without them. Conversations happen privately. Decisions are made informally. The intelligent person becomes respected, but excluded. And exclusion is the quietest defeat, because it happens without confrontation. No one announces it. No one explains it. It simply happens. Machiavelli wrote that men are more willing to offend someone who makes themselves vulnerable. And extreme intelligence often creates vulnerability, not intellectual vulnerability, but social vulnerability. Smart individuals assume fairness. They assume merit. They assume truth matters. But social environments rarely operate on merit alone. They operate on hierarchy, on emotion, on perception. Someone less intelligent but more socially aware recognizes this instinctively. They complement strategically. They agree selectively. They elevate others publicly. They avoid exposing mistakes. They build comfort, and comfort builds loyalty. While the smart person builds accuracy, accuracy is admired. Comfort is protected. When conflict appears, people protect comfort, not accuracy. This is why intelligent individuals often watch decisions being made that they know are flawed, yet they cannot stop them. Their logic is sound, their reasoning strong, but influence is missing because they invested in correctness, not connection. Machiavelli observed that those who wish to influence must first avoid appearing superior. This sounds counterintuitive, but it reflects human insecurity. A person who feels intellectually dominated stops cooperating. A person who feels respected becomes open. Smart individuals often fail here. They assume sharing truth is helpful, but truth without sensitivity becomes threatening. and threat creates resistance. Imagine someone explaining why another person's idea will fail. The explanation is calm, logical, precise, but underneath, the message is clear. You are wrong. You overlooked this. You missed that. Even if spoken politely, ego hears humiliation. And humiliation remembers. The smarter the explanation, the deeper the sting. Machiavelli understood this danger. He believed advice should be delivered in a way that preserves dignity. Not because truth should be hidden, but because dignity controls loyalty. Someone who feels respected supports you. Someone who feels exposed avoids you. Smart people often expose unintentionally. They correct publicly. They challenge openly. They prioritize truth over timing. And slowly, they accumulate silent resistance. No one argues directly, but support disappears. This is the beginning of social defeat. Machiavelli observed something that most intelligent people overlook. People do not remember who was right. They remember who made them feel secure. This is why intelligence alone rarely wins social environments. Because social environments are emotional ecosystems. They are built on comfort, identity, belonging, and perceived status. Someone who disrupts these, even with truth, becomes destabilizing, and people resist destabilization. The intelligent individual often walks into a room believing the goal is clarity, to refine ideas, to improve decisions, to remove error, but everyone else walks in with a different goal, to maintain position, to avoid embarrassment, to appear competent, to preserve influence. These goals are invisible, but powerful, and the moment intelligence threatens them, logic stops mattering. The discussion shifts from what is correct to who is safe. Machiavelli saw brilliant thinkers lose political ground because they underestimated this shift. They believed that by exposing flaws, they were strengthening leadership. But leadership did not see it that way. Leadership saw exposure as weakness. Weakness invites rivals. Rivals threaten power. So the intelligent advisor became the problem. Not because he was wrong, but because he made others appear wrong. This is the hidden trap of intelligence. Accuracy can isolate. Machiavelli advised rulers to prefer advisors who were wise, but controlled. Individuals who understood truth, yet knew when to remain silent. Because silence sometimes protects influence more than speech. Smart people struggle with silence. They feel compelled to correct, to refine, to optimize, to reveal. And each correction quietly erodes comfort. Over time, others begin excluding them from early conversations. Decisions are shaped before the intelligent person enters. When they finally speak, the outcome is already decided. Their logic becomes commentary, not influence, and commentary is powerless. Machiavelli understood timing better than most. He knew that being right too early is socially dangerous, because early truth feels like resistance. People are still attached to their ideas. Their egos are invested. Their identity is involved, so they defend. Later, when failure becomes visible, the same truth becomes acceptable. But by then, the opportunity for influence has passed. The intelligent person predicted everything. But prediction did not equal power. This is why smart people often experience frustration. They see mistakes forming. They warn calmly. They explain logically, yet nothing changes. Then failure happens, and suddenly, everyone acknowledges what they said. But acknowledgement after failure is meaningless. Machiavelli believed influence depends on emotional timing, not just intellectual clarity. The same message delivered at the wrong moment becomes threat. Delivered at the right moment, it becomes leadership. Smart individuals focus on content. Social strategists focus on timing, and timing wins. There is another reason intelligence loses social games. Smart people underestimate the value of ambiguity. They prefer precision, clarity, defined positions. But ambiguity protects relationships. Machiavelli often spoke in layered language. He rarely stated positions bluntly, not because he lacked clarity, but because clarity creates enemies. Ambiguity allows flexibility. It allows others to interpret. It allows people to agree without feeling defeated. Smart individuals remove ambiguity. They define. They conclude. They close debate. And closing debate closes cooperation. Because when someone feels their opinion has been logically destroyed, they may accept intellectually, but resist emotionally. And emotional resistance spreads quietly. Machiavelli observed that individuals who dominate discussions often lose long-term influence. Not because they lack intelligence, but because dominance creates imbalance. Others stop contributing. They feel overshadowed. And eventually, they form alliances without the dominant voice. This is how less intelligent individuals gain control. They create space. They encourage participation. They validate ideas. They avoid intellectual intimidation, and people gravitate toward them, not because they are smarter, but because they are safer. Safety builds loyalty. Loyalty builds power. Power decides outcomes. This is the silent equation smart people ignore. They believe the strongest argument wins, but the strongest alliance wins. And alliances are emotional structures. Machiavelli once described a court where a highly intelligent advisor repeatedly corrected strategic errors. His insights were flawless, but he embarrassed others unintentionally. Over time, the court grew tense when he spoke. Conversations became guarded. Eventually, he was consulted less. Another advisor, far less intelligent, behaved differently. He asked questions instead of correcting. He praised before suggesting. He framed ideas as shared discoveries. Others felt respected, comfortable, included. He gained trust, and trust gave him influence. When conflicts emerged, the ruler listened to him, not because he was smarter, but because he was accepted. This is the painful reality. Social games reward emotional intelligence over raw intelligence. Machiavelli did not reject intelligence. He warned against intelligence without awareness, because awareness balances truth with perception. It knows when to speak, when to soften, when to let others believe an idea was theirs. Smart individuals often crave recognition for accuracy. Social strategists allow others to claim credit, and that difference changes everything. Because people support ideas they feel ownership over, they resist ideas imposed on them. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He often guided decisions indirectly, planting seeds, suggesting gently, allowing rulers to believe conclusions were their own. The outcome was the same, but the emotional reaction was different. This is not deception. It is strategy. Smart people often reject this approach. They prefer directness, but directness can trigger resistance. Indirect influence avoids ego conflict. And ego conflict is the most dangerous obstacle in social environments. The more intelligent someone becomes, the more they value clarity. The more they value clarity, the more they threaten ego. The more they threaten ego, the more resistance forms. And resistance defeats intelligence. This is why smart people lose social games. Not because they lack understanding, but because they ignore emotion. There is one final mistake intelligent people make in social environments. They assume fairness. They believe that if they contribute the most value, they will receive the most influence. If they offer the best ideas, they will gain the most respect. If they understand the situation clearly, they will naturally guide the outcome. But social games are not fair. They are negotiated. Machiavelli understood that influence does not automatically follow intelligence. It follows perception. People support those who make them feel aligned, not those who make them feel corrected. This is why someone with moderate intelligence but strong social awareness can gradually outperform someone brilliant but socially rigid. The intelligent person expects recognition. The strategist builds dependency. And dependency is stronger than recognition. Imagine someone in a group who quietly helps others refine their ideas. They validate contributions. They share credit. They create an environment where everyone feels included. Over time, others begin relying on them, not for answers, but for cohesion. They become central. The intelligent person, meanwhile, delivers the most accurate insights, but remains separate. Others admire them, yet do not rely on them emotionally. And when decisions are made, people follow the one they depend on. This is not logical, but it is human. Machiavelli believed that power grows where people feel safe. Safety encourages loyalty. Loyalty protects position. Intelligence without safety creates distance, and distance weakens influence. This is why many intelligent individuals find themselves in a strange position. They are consulted for solutions, but not included in decisions. They are respected, but not trusted. They are valued, but not followed. Because respect alone does not create alignment. Alignment requires emotional comfort. Another reason smart people lose social games is their discomfort with politics. They see politics as manipulation, as unnecessary complexity, as inefficiency, so they avoid it. They focus purely on truth and logic, but by avoiding politics, they abandon influence. Machiavelli never saw politics as dishonesty. He saw it as navigation, understanding how people think, how they react, how they protect ego, how they build alliances. To ignore this is not integrity. It is vulnerability, because others will still play, and those who play shape outcomes. Smart individuals often believe that staying neutral protects them. They avoid taking sides. They avoid aligning openly. They assume neutrality keeps them objective, but neutrality also keeps them isolated. When conflict emerges, No one defends them. No one advocates for them, because they never built emotional alliances. Machiavelli warned that those who remain neutral in power, struggles often lose regardless of who wins, not because neutrality is wrong, but because neutrality creates no loyalty, and loyalty determines protection. This is another silent defeat. The intelligent person believes ideas matter most, but in social games, relationships decide which ideas survive. There is also the issue of overthinking. Smart individuals analyze deeply. They consider consequences. They evaluate possibilities. They refine before acting. This produces accurate conclusions, but slow decisions. Meanwhile, less analytical individuals move quickly. They speak confidently. They assert ideas early. Confidence shapes perception, even when wrong. Machiavelli observed that decisive individuals often gain influence before accurate ones. Because early confidence creates authority, others begin assuming competence. The intelligent person, still analyzing, appears hesitant, and hesitation is interpreted as uncertainty. This is not fair, but perception rarely is. Over time, the confident voice becomes dominant, even when incorrect, and the intelligent voice becomes secondary, even when accurate. This is another reason smart people lose. They prioritize correctness over presence. Presence shapes influence. Machiavelli believed that appearing decisive often mattered as much as being correct. Not because correctness is unimportant, but because people follow confidence. Confidence signals certainty. Certainty reduces anxiety, and reducing anxiety builds trust. The intelligent person often expresses nuance. They say maybe, possibly, it depends. This reflects depth, but weakens authority. The socially strategic individual speaks simply, clearly, confidently, even when oversimplified, and people follow clarity over complexity. This is the final trap. Intelligence adds layers. Social influence removes them. Machiavelli understood that leaders simplify reality, not because reality is simple, but because simplicity mobilizes people. Complexity confuses. Confusion weakens alignment. Alignment determines outcomes. So the intelligent person speaks truth, layered, careful, precise. The strategist speaks direction, simple, confident, decisive, and direction wins. In the end, smart people do not lose because intelligence is flawed. They lose because intelligence alone is incomplete. Without emotional awareness, timing, perception, and alliance building, intelligence becomes isolated. Machiavelli never dismissed intelligence. He warned against intelligence without strategy, because strategy turns understanding into influence. Without it, knowledge remains passive. The smartest person in the room often sees everything, but the most socially aware person shapes everything. That is the difference. One understands the game. The other wins it. When intelligence learns humility, it stops threatening others. When intelligence learns timing, it stops creating resistance. When intelligence learns perception, it starts building influence. When intelligence learns silence, it preserves authority. When intelligence learns alliances, it gains protection. And suddenly, the smartest person no longer loses. They adapt. They observe. They guide quietly. They allow others to feel ownership. They speak when impact is highest. They avoid humiliating corrections. They build comfort before delivering truth. This is the transformation Machiavelli respected. Not abandoning intelligence, but disguising it. Not suppressing truth, but delivering it strategically. Not dominating discussions, but guiding outcomes. Because the ultimate social advantage is invisible intelligence. Intelligence that does not threaten. Intelligence that empowers others. Intelligence that shapes decisions without demanding recognition. This kind of intelligence wins. Quietly. Consistently. Inevitably. And once you understand this, you stop trying to prove you are the smartest. You start making sure you are the most influential. Because in social games, being right is remembered, but shaping outcomes is power. Machiavelli understood something that most intelligent people only realize after repeated losses. People do not follow the smartest person. They follow the person who makes them feel strongest. This is why intelligence alone rarely builds leadership. Leadership is not just about seeing clearly. It is about making others feel capable. The moment intelligence begins to elevate others instead of overshadow them, everything changes. The intelligent person stops correcting. They start guiding. They stop exposing flaws. They start shaping direction. They stop competing intellectually. They start building alignment. And this shift transforms how others respond. Machiavelli often emphasized that influence grows quietly. The most powerful individuals are not always the loudest or the most intellectually dominant. They are the ones who understand how to move people without triggering resistance. They let others feel ownership. They allow ideas to spread naturally. They avoid making intelligence a weapon, because intelligence used as a weapon creates fear. Intelligence used as support creates loyalty, and loyalty stabilizes power. The mistake smart people make is believing they must demonstrate intelligence to earn influence. But demonstrating intelligence often reduces influence. It creates distance. It creates comparison. It creates insecurity. Others begin measuring themselves against the intelligent individual and feeling smaller. Machiavelli knew that making others feel small creates silent opposition. Even allies become cautious. They hesitate to contribute. They fear being corrected. Over time, they gravitate towards someone who makes them feel comfortable instead. That person may not be the smartest, but they become the center, and the center controls direction. This is why social games are won by those who understand emotional gravity. People orbit around comfort, around validation, around perceived respect. Intelligence that disrupts this gravity pushes people away. Intelligence that reinforces it pulls people closer. Once smart individuals understand this, they stop trying to dominate conversations. They begin asking questions. They allow others to speak first. They acknowledge ideas. They refine gently instead of correcting directly. This does not reduce intelligence. It multiplies its reach, because when people feel respected, they listen. When they feel threatened, they defend. Machiavelli's greatest strength was not simply his understanding of power, but his understanding of ego. He knew ego governs behavior more than logic. A wounded ego becomes stubborn. A respected ego becomes cooperative. Intelligence that respects ego gains influence. This is the hidden advantage. Smart people lose social games because they believe truth is enough. But truth delivered without awareness becomes resistance. Truth delivered with strategy becomes authority. There is also the issue of visibility. Intelligent individuals often believe their work will speak for itself. They assume contribution naturally leads to recognition, but Machiavelli understood that perception must be shaped. Quiet intelligence can be overlooked. Loud confidence can dominate. So the intelligent person must learn controlled visibility, not arrogance, but presence, not domination, but clarity, speaking when it matters, summarizing direction, framing outcomes. This signals leadership without threatening others, and leadership invites alignment. Machiavelli believed that the most effective influence appears natural. Others should not feel manipulated. They should feel guided. This is the difference between forcing ideas and shaping them. The intelligent person often forces accuracy. The strategist shapes acceptance. Acceptance determines action. Another reason smart people lose is their discomfort with emotional signaling. They prioritize logic. They minimize expression. They assume ideas alone persuade. But emotion communicates intent. Warmth signals safety. Calm confidence signals authority. Acknowledgement signals respect. Without these signals, intelligence feels cold, and coldness reduces loyalty. Machiavelli understood that perception of character matters as much as character itself. Someone may be fair, but if they appear distant, others hesitate. Someone may be intelligent, but if they appear dismissive, others resist. So the intelligent person must learn subtle emotional presence, not artificial, but aware, listening fully, pausing before correcting, allowing silence. These small behaviors reshape perception, and perception shapes influence. In the end, the reason smart people lose social games is simple. They play the wrong game. They play for correctness, while others play for alignment. They play for truth, while others play for influence. They play for clarity, while others play for connection. Machiavelli did not suggest abandoning truth. He suggested understanding human nature, because truth without influence changes nothing. Influence without truth creates chaos, but truth combined with influence shapes outcomes. This is the balance. The smartest person becomes powerful, not when they prove superiority, but when they remove threat, when they elevate others, when they guide quietly, when they let ideas feel shared. Then intelligence stops isolating and starts leading. The smartest person in the room does not need to speak the most. They need to move the room. They do not need to win arguments. They need to shape decisions. They do not need recognition. They need influence. Once intelligence learns this, social games change completely. Conversations become opportunities. Silence becomes strategy. Questions become tools. Respect becomes leverage. And suddenly, the person who once lost begins to win quietly, not through dominance, not through manipulation, but through awareness. Machiavelli understood that the strongest power is invisible. It does not announce itself. It does not demand attention. It simply guides outcomes while others believe they chose freely. This is the final lesson. Smart people lose social games when they try to prove intelligence. They win when they use intelligence to understand people, because understanding people is the real game. And the one who understands the game shapes reality, quietly, consistently, inevitably.